Thanks.
And we are live.
Hello, my name is Vijay Kharade. I have 20 plus years of technology industry experience. I'm passionate about innovation, design thinking, agile. I am really excited to talk to you, the students of DY Patil Institute of Engineering, Management and Research, Akodi, Pune. And I'm sure you guys are also looking forward to speak to me. So see you soon.
Good morning, everyone. The time is over. We are grateful that today's event is going to be hosted by us. I'm Mahima Thakur.
And I, Sanket Lakhe, we are heartily welcome you all to this special webinar, Inno-Web.
Yes, Sanket, let's introduce about our webinar to all, shall we?
Yes, please.
Before proceeding, I would like to thank all the attendees for taking the time to join us today. So I hope you all are ready for this preeminent session. Chiefly inviting Mr. Vijay Kharade, sir, who is a creative leader with over 22 years of technology experience.
He started his career in IT industry in 1999 with Wipro, and within almost 16 years of association, he played key leadership roles, including leading large account delivery teams and then moving on to leading external innovation function, where he was responsible for discovering and incubating innovative technology startups from around the world.
He is the creator of Innovation Management Framework between 2015 and 2017. He consulted companies and coached leaders and individuals in the areas of innovation and agile. In his current role with Siemens, he is consulting and coaching large teams of lean agile ways of working.
That's really great, sir. We are gratified to invite and acquire knowledge on this subject. He is going to give us details on innovation and Inno-Web. Please, sir, proceed to you.
Okay, thank you, Mahima and Sanket, for that great introduction. I hope I am audible as well as visible to you all.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
great. So, what I will do is I have created a small PowerPoint presentation for you all. This being a fully remote session, I think typically when I have to conduct such a workshop, what I in person when I used to conduct, I think that used to be a lot of interaction, a lot of actual going, meeting people, shaking hands, touching each other. But that I think we are going to miss. Although there is a luxury of sitting in our own homes and doing this, maybe having a cup of tea or coffee or whatever we think. So we will miss on certain part, but at the same time, I think there is some other luxury that we have at hand. I will share the PowerPoint presentation that I have created for you all.
Sure,
Let
sir.
me know once you start seeing this. Share screen and share screen.
It's visible, sir.
It's visible in full running mode of
Yes, sir.
PowerPoint. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So good morning, you guys, everyone, once again. And I'm really happy to be speaking to you today. And when Mahima spoke to me in the beginning, I think she looked at my profile and then she thought, why don't I speak something on agile? But agile, I think I because association of agile is more towards technology. I thought let us do something different, and then I suggested why not do something on innovation, and I have come up with something that you can see here as the as was something what that I would talk about. So let me move on to the next one. So what we'll see is we will see top 5 skills or traits that one can develop or start developing if I think from this point onwards, and so that we can be more innovative. Now, what are the basic things that I would like to talk about? There are certain basic things before why this is moving forward. I don't know. So okay, so I'll have to keep uh, continuously this one. Okay, so these are sorry. Oh, so this is running on its own. So This is running on its own. Sorry, I think this. So what I have to do is, tell me if I come out of this presentation mode, is that still visible? Can we do that quick change? I have come out of this
So,
mode. If this is visible to you, perhaps, is it visible still?
Yes, sir, it is.
yes,
You
sir.
It
can
is visible.
proceed.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
we'll, I think, go in this manner then, because it was running on its own. I don't know why, and then I cannot
That
really
will be
sort it
fine,
out
sir.
now. Yeah, although I think we have tried to do this earlier. Okay, so basically, I will talk about, when it comes to innovation, I will talk about few basic things. What is innovation? Why someone has to innovate? When to innovate and how to innovate. Although I think how is a big part, which normally used to be a 2 days of workshop that I used to conduct through the work, through the framework that Mahima just talked about. We will touch upon the other things, but at the same time, there is a basic foundation that one needs to lay, and then I will try to do that in next few minutes. So, um, what is innovation? Now, I think looking at this diagram, does something come to your mind? uh, if Since I this is again not in a very big picture that you must be seeing. Basically, what I have tried to show is, here is an elephant, and different people are trying to interpret what this elephant is, and basically these people are blind. So if there are 4 5 blind people who try to find out what an elephant is, what will happen? What I have seen is that, while I was working as innovation consultant, what I've seen is that, I think, many a times, people with good amount of experience as well, they think innovation in different ways. Someone, for example, if you see this elephant, someone who is touching the trunk thinks that it's a snake. It's something, like a snake. Someone who is touching its tail, he's thinking that it's a rope. Someone who is touching his ears is thinking that elephant is nothing like a fan, and then so on. So similar thing happens normally when people talk about innovation. And then hence I thought, or whenever I conduct any innovation workshop, the basic things that I think that I bring the audience to this is that we need to be on the same page in terms of what we think by innovation. So which is what I'm trying to address through. And again, I just wanted to announce here that although this is I think not that going to be not that interactive, just in case you guys or any of you think that there is something that you need to have clarification then and there while I'm speaking, please do not hesitate to speak to either Mahima or Sanket, or highlight that, and then I think you could stop me, pause me, because the purpose here is for me to be able to explain that to you so that you understand, and not the other way around. I hope that's okay with you as well.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Hi. Okay,
Yes,
good,
sir.
good. So I will move on to the next slide in that case. Now, what is innovation? Uh, Typically, if you think about innovation, if you close your eyes and think about innovation, what comes to your mind is predominantly, or 99% of the times, I think what comes to anybody's mind is that a bulb which is glowing, an idea. It's a symbol of that. I think that is what comes to the mind. But if you see, there are these four other pictures as well that I have tried to incorporate here, which are very very important when it comes to innovation. And then I would like you to, if not anything else, I think I would like you to understand and take back at least one thing, that innovation is not just an idea, but there is a lot that has to happen to that particular idea. If you see the next, if you see the question mark here, are you, if just in case, can you see the cursor as well that I'm trying to show? You may not be able to see
Yes,
that
sir.
because I'm not. Okay, you see that. So what it means is that innovation has to be able to solve some problem. Now, I think there is a very, very good example that normally comes to my mind is that, and then this may not be really known to you all because you are a quite young generation, but people of 35 plus will understand this. When 2000 was the time when the world was facing, the IT world was facing one of the biggest challenges of that time, which was the Y2K problem. Y2K problem is something which is year 2000 problem, where majority of the systems, or the majority of the software that was written what was existing was written to show the year in 2 digit formats, which was YY. And then 2000, and then it was going to be 00, and then because of that there were going to be many issues. So companies worldwide, I think they needed good software engineers to solve that problem, so that the YY is changed to YYYY, as 2000 is represented instead of just 00. And many people made their transition as well. I think there were mechanical engineers, there electrical engineers at that time. A few years before 2000, many people have switched their careers into this IT career as well, IT stream as well, because of the intake or the demand of engineers, that software engineers was needed at that time. So one of my colleagues tells a very beautiful story about this, that one fine day one of his friends came to him and said, by the way, this particular job of replacing YY with YYYY, you can understand that it for software engineers, I think, who would like to have novelty, creativity, and then different things in their programming aspects. I think replacing YY, to simplify, with YYYY was not a very interesting job. It was a boring job. To some extent, I have worked as well, but fortunately, I have not had to work on that issue for a long time. So what he says, that my friend's colleague, or my colleague's friend, what he comes to him and tells that, hey, you know what, I have developed a very good tool or utility or bot, that you could call it as, and then we software engineers don't have to do anything. We just have to click a button, and then this Y2K problem will be solved. Can you imagine the reaction? Can you imagine how important, how uh, relevant it was? But there was only one issue, that he had come up with this particular tool or the utility in year 2000, before which everything had been implemented, whatever was to be implemented. I guess you can understand, he had solved the problem, but the problem did not exist. So it is very, very important for us, for the innovators, to solve a problem that exists either today, not yesterday, but that is going to be faced by people tomorrow. So today's problem or tomorrow's problem, that's a very, very important thing for that innovative ideas that you're going to have. Now, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are there, because I cannot see anything else than the screen, and I can't hear anything. Can someone confirm that
Yes,
you are
yes,
there?
sir, we are.
Okay, okay, great.
And sir,
Uh,
yes, I have one doubt. Sorry for interrupting.
Great, go ahead.
Uh, yeah, how can I come like with a particular error that really exists? Like how I will come to know about it?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is basically, in this particular case, it was known. It was known that most of the systems, right from, I think, the software that was written, and the programs that were written, it was everywhere. It was written as YYYY, right? So YY, and then when there is a two-digit year stored, and then after 1999, when the year was going to be changed to 2000, it was going to be 00, and then that was going to create havocs. Here it was known to everyone. Now, how can we know? I think that's a very good question, and if you can hold that aspect of your question, curiosity of that question, I think you will get that answer yourself, and then you will come and tell me. So there are certain traits that I talked about. I think we need to have these traits. We need to develop these traits, as we develop our muscles, whether our physical muscles, or our memory muscles, or our brain muscles, or something else. We need to develop those skills. So I hope, is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure, sir. Please proceed.
Okay, okay, great, great, thank you. In fact, to be very honest, I like to be interrupted. I don't like continuously talking as well. Thanks for asking this question. And then I encourage, just in case there are any other people who may have questions coming to their minds, and who do not want to wait until we reach that allotted time, please go ahead and ask those questions to the moderators. Okay, so let me move on. The next diagram here, or the next icon here, is something that you could see, is that execution, right? So they say that any good idea is as bad as its execution. So you may be having the greatest of the ideas, but if it is not executed well, I think that is not going to be of use. So that's also very, very important. It is not just idea, it is not just the problem, but one needs to have a good team. I think there are many aspects when it comes to execution. Again, it's a very big topic, and then you can keep talking. There are careers people build around this. So basically, in a nutshell, that needs to be executed as well in the manner that is expected. And the last figure, last diagram here, what it says is that you need to be able to create an impact. Now, create an impact in your own context. That's very important. For example, if you have, for example, if it is an educational institute like yours, what is an impact? If there are some innovative approaches that educational institute like DY Patil is going to use, I think there are certain things that are our students going to be placed with higher bracket salaries that they are. Do we have more companies coming to us in our campus? That could be something that an educational institute may have as an impact by implementing certain innovative approaches. If it's a company, if it's an organization, I think typically they will say, is my revenue going to increase or not? Is my cost going to go down or not? Is my efficiency going to improve or not? Are we going to be able to produce products better, faster, and cheaper than our competition or not? So that's the impact that we have to think about in our own context, depending upon who that organization is, what the problem we are trying to solve, and the impact that that will be visible. So this is basically, I think these are the things that one needs to think about when someone says that yes, there is an innovation that is happening. And I hope you I think this is clear to you. So if this is good, I can move on to the next slide, or maybe I can pause for a minute or for 30 seconds or something, just in case there are any questions coming up.
Yes, guys, if you have any kind of questions, you can have it in the chat box. As sir told that he would like to be interrupted, so there will be any problem.
Okay, so let us move on to the next slide. Um, why do we have to innovate? Now, I think if we were in this in a running mode, I think I would have showed that with an animation in terms of, but everything is seen now itself here itself. So what we have to do is that there are certain things that I've written here on the left hand side. How did we hire taxis, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and then how do you do that today? Similarly, and then I think since you guys perhaps may not have much of experience in terms of this, I think in terms of my experience, it goes back to 20 years ago itself. When I had to hire taxi about 20 years ago, what we used to do is that there used to be someone's friends, uncle's chacha used to have a small taxi company, and then we used to call him, and then he used to call him or her, and then get the contact details, and we used to say, hey, we need to travel to airport uh, you know uh, 1 week after, and then we want to book your taxi so that you come on time and then pick us up on time. So that is the way we used to do about 20 years ago. About I think 6 7 years ago, when there were, I think, the before the world of Olas and Ubers, I used to travel every alternate week to Bangalore, from Pune to Bangalore, because my role wanted me to do that. And then what I used to do is that I had a taxi driver who was known to me. But before that, the problem that I used to face in Bangalore is that I had to book a taxi a day early in the morning. I had to call that guy. It was, I think, one of the main companies in which was there in Mumbai as well as Bangalore. I forgot that name of the taxi company, but I had to call them. I had to inform them that this is the time in the evening at sharp 4 o'clock. You come and pick me up from here. And then many times, 2 hours before, he used to call me, sir, I'm stuck in the traffic of Bangalore, and then I'm going to be delayed by about 30 or 40 minutes. There was a time, many times, I used to be so anxious that I'm going to miss my flight in the evening. And we used to go into, that kind of thing used to happen. But now, with the Ola and Uber, the power of that in our mobile itself, okay, you can see that within 2 minutes, you see that there are 10 taxis that can be lined up for you, and then you don't have to be really anxious about it. So that is the kind of innovation that is happening. Similarly, I think, how did we listen to the music? Now, I have this is about 20 years ago instead of 10 years ago. I think, again, I don't know how much of experience you may have. You may go back maybe 10 years ago and then see it. But this is something, can someone, if you can see this, can someone tell me what this is? This is my one of the devices that I had bought in either 99 or 2000. Um, in UK, this was the trendiest instrument to have at that time. I used to put it in my pocket. It used to fit in my pocket. It still fits. And then I used to put cassette here in this, the cassette that I want, and then listen to the songs that I wanted from one side, and then I had to change that side and then listen to the songs. About 10, 20 songs I think I could listen to this. This was a pocket friendly. Does anyone know the name of this particular instrument? You can put it in the chat just in case you know, and the moderators could read it out for me. I'm a little curious just in case you want to, anybody knows the name of this instrument. Are there any inputs coming? Mine was
Yeah,
Yes.
typing.
some reserve mail. Someone is saying that is it a Walkman?
Yes.
Yes, yes, 100%.
That's right.
This is a Walkman. This is a Walkman. Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, I think if we were there, perhaps I think, or whenever we meet, I think you find out the name of the person, and then I can send a chocolate to him or her, whoever has answered this question.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is a Walkman, right? So and then today, uh, how do we do that? How do you guys hear music? It's a question that I'm asking. So what are the responses? Or moderators, you yourself, what are your experiences? Experiences? How do you listen to music?
Yes.
Askan is
We
saying
got
that
the answer.
Spotify.
Yes.
Spotify, right? It's just a piece of software. So, so this is what is happening, right? And then how did we buy books earlier? So I think today, even now, people must be buying physical books. But earlier, I think in my student life, I think the only way for me to go and read the books that I wanted to read was go to the college library or the university library, or sometimes if in your city there is a library, go and read those books. Many times it used to happen that the book that you wanted to read was already out and borrowed by people. Already they had multiple, even if they had multiple copies, you had to wait. You had to book a book in the library and then wait for it maybe for a few days of time, and then when your turn comes, you have to ensure that you read that book within 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 7 days, and then return the book. Otherwise there used to be fine. So that is the way in my student life I think we used to do that. But I think now you buy books, physical books, from the physical stores, but now with Amazon. And then how normally I think now my kids, they don't,
Yeah,
although
there
they
are
have,
ebooks.
correct, so there are
Yeah.
ebooks, but there are audiobooks as well. So this is, I think today if you see, there are ebooks or audiobooks. And then what I think we need to do is that, so yes, today what we do is, okay, yes, 5 years ago how we did, 10 years ago, 20 years ago what we did, but these things and beyond this as well, how will we do these things in 2030? How will we do these things in 2040 and 2050? I don't know about me about in 2050, but you guys have to really think about it. So tomorrow, after passing out, or even while you're working, if you're developed your startup or company, and then you have to think about that, if a product or a service that you have decided, you have come up with, you know to think how you need to, whether or not you need to do, how people will interact with my product, how they will use my service by 2020, by 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, or 30 years down the line. And that is the question that constantly needs to be answered by business leaders, by entrepreneurs, the managers, and engineers, and everybody. If you want to be surviving, forget about thriving. I think if you don't do that, you won't even be surviving. So to survive and to thrive, people have to be innovating. So that is the need behind innovation. So why is, that there shouldn't be a question in terms of why. So I will maybe pause for 30 seconds or something here, just in case there are any questions, or otherwise move on.
Yeah, so someone is asking that, sir, you talked about solving a problem with which doesn't exist even exist yet, like the Y2K problem. So how are we supposed to know that something might cause an issue?
Yes, yes. And then I think I will request you to wait for a minute. There are certain traits or skills that we could generate. There is no straightforward answer, to be very honest, but there are certain traits or skills that we can develop and then that definitely can be useful. There are many tools as well, but at least some of these things can perhaps will be useful for you to get answers to those questions in the next few minutes. Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir, sure.
Okay. So the next question is when to innovate. I will not really spend too much of time here. Those people who are Marathi, I think they perhaps may understand what I'm trying to depict from here. There is a well, and then I'm this symbolizes something. There is a saying in Marathi which goes, I think, literal translation in English. What it means is that you don't dig up a well when you are thirsty. You need to do that much before that, right? So when to innovate is a question, and I've seen earlier, I think it was 2015 or something, when I started consulting and people on innovation. And then in sometimes you will be, I think, surprised to hear that when I used to ask when to innovate, and then some senior leaders used to say that yes, we should innovate when there are many complaints coming up, we should innovate when this happens, we should innovate when that happens. But the best time to innovate is now. Best time to innovate is when you are doing the best. I think you should start. So that is what is said here. Again, let me pause for 10 seconds just in case there are any questions coming up. Okay, so how I'm not going to touch into this. This is a FPMI framework that I have developed, and then I used to talk about this. So first things first. So what is, for any organization, what's the most important attribute that you see here? People, process, and technology. Now, again, I think let me not spend too much of time waiting for you to answer. Sometimes people say the technology, sometimes people say process, sometimes people say people. But I would like you to take this back, I think, is that the most important attribute from any organization is the people. You may have the best of the tools and the technology, but there is a saying that a fool with a tool is always a fool itself, right? So unless you have people who know how to make use of that tool and technology, I think it doesn't help. Process, you may be having the best in class tech process, but if the people are not that capable, I think that may not really help. But if you have a bunch of bright individual people, for example, the dabbawalas of Mumbai that you see, I think many of people are illiterate there, but the processes that they have, there is a case study which is being studied, I think, at many leading management colleges from what they have done. So the most important aspect of any organization and the attribute of any organization is people, and hence I think we need to focus on that. The surveys also say that what we are going to talk now next, that the skills about innovation and creativity is something important, that CEOs of the organizations which were surveyed few years back, I think they were talking about the same thing. And then let me not, I think, spend too much of time on that aspect as well. Let us straight away jump into what are the skills or traits that one thinks needs to be developed. Now, looking at this is the first skill that I'm talking about. And looking at this picture, can somebody guess what is the skill that I'm talking about? What is the trait that I'm going to talk about? Just 10 seconds. Okay. Um, so basically, it's a curious cat that I have shown here, and the skill set or the trait that I'm talking about is curiosity. Can you read what is there in the picture?
Yes, sure, I will help you with that.
Yes,
Curiosity,
please.
millions saw the apple fall, but Newton asked why.
Right. So millions of people saw falling apple, but nobody came up with a question in terms of why it is falling. The curiosity that we need to have, like that cat or the child, you need to develop childlike curiosity in your mind. I think that is the most important trait that one needs to develop. Now, Mahima, when you ask this question, I think you asked that question out of curiosity itself, and then hence I asked you to wait for this. One needs to start consciously developing this curiosity. I think that's the most important thing. Now there are certain tools to do that as well, but I think within this given time, I think we may not be able to go that to that depth and find out as to how, etc. But this is the skills, this is the trait, this is one of the muscles that need to be developed. Now there are certain examples that come to my mind, I think, when we talk about it. So if you I think one example is my example that again in my own case that comes in. Uh, we were a group of engineers working on one of the largest databases of from Europe in year 2000, and there was one particular software program which we used to call it as a job that used to take 7 hours to complete. So once that job starts to run, it used to take 7 hours to complete. And then I was working on it for about 6 months, and I couldn't really solve it, or things did not really stuck to my mind. There were many people who were working on that particular application for more than 10 years, 20 years, but I think nothing could happen. But there was a guy who joined 6 months after I joined, and then he he was so curious. He used to think why this is taking so much of time, and then he used to come and go do some research on his own, and then he fixed that issue. And then can you imagine that he fixed that issue with a when you look back, you will find that this was a common sense. And after he fixed that issue, he could fit that job could be finished in just 7 minutes. 7 hours to 7 minutes, he reduced it. So I know the curiosity is one aspect I think that helps. There is another example that comes to my mind is that you must have heard about TVS scooters, TVS company. There was one of the senior assistants there. His name is Srinivasan. He used to work in Hosur factory. I think some of you who are familiar with Bangalore, Chennai, I think you will know that Hosur. There is a Hosur road and there is a factory, Hosur factory. He used to work there, and then he found that there was one particular component of a model bike star model that was same in the Victor model as well, but the price of that component was just rupees 1 rupees 23 paisa more than the Victor model. So do you think that someone should spend a time finding out why one particular component is 1 rupee less or 2 rupees less or 1.23 to be precise more than one component? But he was so curious. He did a laboratory analysis of that particular component, and then he found that there was no difference. So why there is a price difference of 1 rupees plus in this particular component? And then he realized that the reason was one, for the Victor they used to source it for 5 kilometers away, and for the other star model they used to source it from about 500 kilometers away, which was in Andhra Pradesh. So he proposed that we need to change the sourcing vendor for this, and then he helped the company for with huge savings. Now, just to give an idea on the scale that he has helped, in about 6 years of time, there are 5,000 plus ideas that such suggestions that he has given, and more than 5 crore rupees of savings he has helped TVS company. So that curiosity aspect is something that one needs to start developing and cultivating, is what I want to highlight from here. So I will move on to the next one, but I'll wait for about 10 seconds just in case there are any burning questions.
Yes, sir. One question has arisen. Many of the innovations become obsolete with the time. How to maintain consistency and make sure that they work in long run?
Oh yeah, I think this is a very difficult question that you asked, because from business perspective, I think we need to be always having a telescopic vision. We need to also having a microscopic vision and a macroscopic vision. I think what business leaders they do normally do is that they look at it in terms of horizons. They look at the horizons where their products are right now mature. This maturity curve of a product, right? So they always look at that, and then you have to see what are the products or the services that are current cash cows are going to be obsolete after a year, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, and then they divert their investments according to that. Not only that, they also look at what is the upcoming trend that is coming, and then how we can invest into that, and then we can start working on that. And at the same time, what are the products which are stable products, which currently give a lot of cash as well, which are going to be significantly in a longer term, I think they are going to give us. So at three buckets you can categorize these things, and then treat your products or services like that. I will keep it that way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the next
Sir,
skill set that,
So
yes.
we have one more question. So someone is asking that is there a way to enhance one's curiosity in something, or is it a natural trait some people have and some don't?
Yeah. So I think it's a combination of these two. There are definitely some people who have this natural abilities than someone else as well. But the question that any of the creative skills that people say, that is like a muscle that can be developed Yes, it can be developed. There is a lot of research that has gone it. Any of the skills that I'm going to talk about, or anybody else as well talks about, particularly when it falls into the right brain side or left hand brain side, I think those can be developed. Yes. Okay. So I will move on to the next one that I'm going to talk about. Then before I move in, I think I need to I will let me show. Let me I think tell you what is the idea behind this, and then tell this. Basically, what it says is that this is an experiment that was carried out by human behavior scientists about on five monkeys. And the five monkeys were kept in a cage, and then these monkeys were what they used to that in the first phase of the in that experiment. They kept the five monkeys and they kept a ladder in the middle of the room, and then kept bananas on the top of the ladder. So what used to happen is that monkeys and bananas, I think I don't have to explain it much. Monkeys used to go and you know try to get the bananas. As soon as one of the monkeys used to go and try to get the bananas, what the scientists started doing is that they started showering the other monkeys with very cold water, like giving them the punishment. So after a few days, what these monkeys thought is that, yeah, this monkey is the culprit. Whoever tries to go and gets the bananas, I think only then we get this punishment. So if a monkey started, grabbing a banana, these other four monkeys used to grab and then beat it to good extent. So what happened is that in the next phase, none of the monkeys started, even if there were bananas kept, none of them dared to go and get the bananas. So so that was completely stopped. In the next phase, what the scientists did is that they replaced one of the monkeys with a new monkey. All these five monkeys were trained. They replaced a trained monkey with an untrained monkey, and then untrained monkey did not know the rules of the games. And what that did is that that monkey tried to get bananas, and you can predict what must have happened. Similarly, the other monkeys and then what I think at that stage, what scientists also did is that they had removed the bananas, and then what used to happen is that even if any of the monkeys used to go climb the ladder, even if there were no bananas, even if there were no shower used to happen, I think the other monkeys used to go and beat those monkeys. So I think you must have got the message is that we need to start thinking. For example, when the monkeys used to get the punishment as a part of someone trying to get a banana, I think that was okay. But even when the scientists were not punishing the monkeys, if someone was trying to get a banana, the other monkeys used to give that punishment. So I think when you start working in your corporate life after you pass out, I think it is very very after you clear your college and go out. What is important is that you need to start thinking from this thing, that changing the status quo, questioning the assumptions. This is the skill I think that you need to start developing. Why we do what we do, and in a way we do, are there any better ways of doing it? These are the questions I think that one needs to ask to themselves, ask others, the leaders, the managers, the seniors, and then themselves. Unless you ask this, I think you may be stuck in those, what these monkeys are doing. And that is what is the message that I wanted to give through this particular story. So let me pause for a minute before I move on here. Uh, as well for a 10 seconds of time.
Okay, we have a
Sir,
question,
we
sir.
had one
Suraj Joshi
question.
is. Yeah, Mahima, go on, go on.
Yeah, thank you. Suraj Joshi is asking, sir, can there be a dead end to think of innovations?
Uh, Definitely no. Definitely no. That's the shortest answer that I can give. Yeah. So let me move on to the next one. So what does this mean? Can you guess what I'm going to talk about?
I think we have to keep listening, like to
Yes,
others' ideas.
correct.
Yes, sir,
You
listening
have
skills.
Yes, you have to 1 minute. I think this is a okay. You have to listen. The skills that you need to start developing is listening is one of the most important skills that you need to develop. Do you know what is this product? There's this product called TJs. Are there any people from Delhi or North Side who may have heard about this? I think they will know. But since it's already about 40 minutes, which was an alarm that I had set, I think I will not spend too much of time waiting for your answers. But TJs is a product which stands for Tihar jails. And if any people know, I think that is good as well. But these are the products which are developed by the inmates of Tihar jail. Tihar jail, I think I don't have to give any introduction to it. But there is, how did that happen, right? So how did something like Tihar jail today, I think if I have to again give a very small summary, they they produce more than maybe 30 crores of revenue every year. There are many graduates which are coming out of which, including management graduates, lawyers. There are campus interviews that happen in Tihar jail. There used to be inmates who were illiterate, but when they come out, they are able to sign their names at least, and then things like that. There may be some colleges here, even today, where there may not be campus interviews happening, but can you imagine the campus interviews happening there in Tihar jail? So this is a transformation of a jail that was done, and it was possible by this ability to listen by one person, and it is none other than Dr. Kiran Bedi. So what she did is, I think it was May 1993 when she took over the charge as Inspector General of this Tihar jail. And then when she took over the charge, she was told by some of the ex IGs of the jail that you don't have to do anything. I think you can sit at home and you can work from home the way people are doing now. You work from home, get a couple of files to be cleared on a daily basis, and then your job is done. But she being herself, she being what she is, she decided to do it in a different way. So she started visiting the jail, and then she started listening to the people, and then she used to carry her notebook, and then she used to write everything that she used to observe into that notebook, and then whatever improvements she used to think about, she used to take action on those improvements, and then implement those actions with the help of her staff. But afterwards, idea came to her mind that instead of me myself and then my small staff doing it, why not listen to people? Why not get these ideas from the inmates itself? And then she started, there is a concept called petition box. She came up with the idea of a petition box, which was a small wooden box, and then it was a locked box, and then it had a small slit from which papers can be inserted with the ideas and suggestions, and then the key of that lock was with herself. So she started giving those rounds, and then prisoners and inmates, they started giving their ideas. And can you imagine, within 6 months of time, she received more than 2000 ideas. And then she individually, she herself on her own, she used to read each and every idea and then respond to that. And then that was the basis for all the reforms that one has seen in terms of the Tihar jail, what it is today. It may not be the best place, but I think for what it was before she came in and what it was after, by the time she left, I think it's a case for to be studied by any of the leadership institutes, or leader people who have interest in that. So listening is a very very important skills, I think, that needs to be developed. And then she did that by listening to them, by using a different way of doing it. So this is something that I would like to like you to take back. There are many examples that we could talk about, but in the interest of time, I think we could. Now before I move on to the next slide, I will pause for 10 seconds or something.
Yes, sir, I have one question. Can you describe a time when you helped to inspire innovations or creativity in others?
um, yes, I think this is again a question. There have been few instances where you do that, and particularly when you are into people leadership role, I think that is one of the most important roles. I think what you can call it as, you need to have innovative work atmosphere, innovative culture, innovative the way of working, how it goes back to nowadays. I think it ties back to the agility as well. People think, or the environment, right? So how the work environment looks like in Google. There are slides, there are something else, there are snacks. But typically earlier, how work environment used to be in terms of the cubicles or the cabins or the desks arranged. So there are many things, many levers that leaders can do, right from how that working environment looks like, how your desks are arranged, how the leaders behave. There are many many things through which you can you can inspire your team to do that. There are many things it can do, and lot many things are commonsensical as well. But um, uh, I hope that that answers your question to some extent. If not,
Yes, sir, it is. Thank you.
yeah. Okay. So this is the fourth skill that I'm going to talk about. Is can someone imagine what I must be talking about. And nowadays, in any corporate environment, I think this is talked a lot.
I think it's like working together or a teamwork.
Yes, it's like
and a
working
trust
together,
in team.
trust in team. Yes. So I think you guys are there. So what I'm talking about is that empathy. So one needs to have empathy towards others. And then this is a skill. Once you have, I think it goes back to the question that you asked as well, how you can help your team to be more creative. It is it empathy helps in not only for you to understand what's happening and for you to be able to come up with the ideas, find out the problems being faced by them, but it also can help in many other ways. Now, there is a small difference between sympathy and empathy that you can I think you can read it from here as well. But let me, I think, give you an example of what this is, through maybe something that you may understand it better. uh, you must have watched this movie called Harry Potter, or the all the movies, or you must have read the books as well from Harry Potter. There is one particular concept of a mirror of erased in that movie, Harry Potter. So what that mirror is, that I think the scene is like this: the Harry Potter, he comes across this particular mirror on the Christmas night, and then what he says, when he looks into that mirror, normally what should happen is that you should see yourself in that mirror, but he doesn't see himself. What he sees is that his family members, his and then his parents, who are dead, and some of the other members of his family that he sees. And then he's surprised to see what's there in that mirror, and then he shows that to his best friend Ron. And then Ron also comes in and looks into the mirror thinking that he is going to see his family, but what he sees is, he sees himself standing as the captain of his local team. So both of them are completely surprised. One person sees his family members, other person sees himself as the captain. They go and ask this to Principal Dumbledore, who explains them that this is mirror of arise, this is a special mirror. So what it shows is that it shows the deep down desires that the person standing in front of it has. So that is what is the empathy that a leader, I think tomorrow you will be in a leadership position, and then you'll be working with people, because as we have seen, people are the most important attribute of any organization. So people, you need to be empathetic towards people, you need to understand their deep down desires. As a business owner, as a business leader, you need to understand, you need to have that empathy to understand what your customers needs are there. As a manager, you need to understand and have that empathy in terms of what your team wants and needs. So that is something that I wanted to highlight. And then one example again that comes in is that, they say the birth of Nana Tata Nano, right? So how it happened. So Mr. Ratan Tata, I think he saw one day a typical middle class family of four, husband, wife, and two kids, on a scooter, and in a falling rain. So he saw that with an empathetic mind. He said, what that person wants is not a two wheeler but a four wheeler, and within his budget. And then the birth of the idea of Tata Nano within the budget, that I think the cheapest car in the world that was born. Now I think it's a different story in terms of how successful as a product that was, but the point here is not about that. The point here is about the skills, the trait that one needs to have in order to be able to see what your customers, what your team, what your employees are going to need. That's what I wanted to talk about. Again, let me pause for 10 seconds before I move on to the last one that I have here for you.
Yeah, so Tanmay is asking that should we share ideas with others?
Yeah, I think this is I between 2013 and 2015, I was leading the innovation function, open innovation, one of the open innovation functions for Wipro. And then I used to interact with a lot of youngsters as well, and then who used to come and ask this question. I have this idea, brilliant idea, and then if I share this idea with others, I think my idea will be lost. I think we have to take this with a pinch of salt. Okay, do you know that the idea that you have got at this point of time, you must be thinking that this is the most unique idea that you have got. I think there are more than 1,000 people who have got similar idea, and then much before than you already have, and then they have already worked on this idea, maybe done a prototype, maybe they have done pilot as well, or beta version of this particular product or service. So it is not about whether your idea is unique or not, whether you need to share your idea with others or not. I think that is not that should not be the question. All right. So shall I move on to the next one?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Yeah. The Can you read Mahima or uh, Sanket?
Yeah, sure. And Einstein is quoted as saying that if he had 1 hour to save the world, he would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and only 5 minutes finding the solution.
Right. So what he says is that if he has 1 full hour, 60 minutes, he will not jump onto solution, right? So he will spend 55 minutes finding and defining and redefining the problem before he really jumps to the solution. It's very, very important message, I think that. So what really happens is that the moment someone sees that this is a problem, people come up with 100 different solutions and think that this needs to be addressed that. But that is not the point. I think we need to ensure that we are solving the right problem, and then for that we need to define the problem, we need to redefine the problem, look at it from 100 different ways, spend enough time, and then move on. That's the message, I think, that that comes out of here. So let me I think give you my own simple example. There are many other things as well that I could, but recent example, this Diwali, right? So Diwali, you all know, everybody starts cleaning their homes, etc. And then same thing was happening in my home. And then one particular fan, I think that I was thinking that this fan is not really running with the speed that it should run, while we noticed that. So I called an electrician. I told him that I need to replace the condenser of this particular fan. So he comes and he came and visited. So asked me, "Are you sure, sir, that you want to replace the condenser of the fan?" Yes, I said I need to replace the condenser of the fan. He looked at the condenser, he looked at the fan, and he said, "Sir, it is not the condenser that needs to be replaced. There is a small capacitor within the fan which costs about 30 rupees, and that needs to be replaced." And then I was like, so I had defined that problem as, yes, the problem with this low speed with the fan is that the condenser is not good. Now, if I have to go back, I think with the same thing, it was about, I think, 4 5 years ago, or maybe more than that. I had a similar problem. I had a slow running fan, and then I called an electrician. I told that I need to replace this fan. This is my problem. Can you come and replace the fan? An electrician came. He looked at the fan, and then he said, "Sir, you don't have to replace the fan, but there is this particular that knob. What is that name of the knob? That I think that needs to be changed, right? So regulator needs to be changed." And then and then he changed the regulator, and then I realized that, yes, when there is a problem with the speed, perhaps a regulator. And then this Diwali, when I called an electrician, I said that regulator needs to be changed. He said, "Sir, not the regulator, but the condenser." I think it is very, very important for us to not define the problem so narrowly, but have it have it general, so that the experts can look at the problem, and they decide how the problem should be looked at and attacked. There are different ways, I think, in which we could do that. There are many other examples as well, but I think in the interest of time, I will let me stop here. This is I am done here, and then I think you can ask questions. um, I will stop.
Yes, participants, you can drop your questions in the chat box.
Mahima, can I stop sharing so that I can start seeing you guys as well?
Yeah, yeah, sure,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Because
Yes.
I'm done with the presentation. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, we have a question from Parth. So he's asking, the idea of nano is innovative, but it has faded away from the minds of people. So how to avoid that?
Yes, yes. Yeah, how to avoid that, I think, is a different way. But as I said, the leaders who are in the decision making capacity, they constantly look at it not only from what their current products are, but they also have to look at what are the products or the services that are sunsetting, which are going to be retired soon. And then they invest their time, energy, and money accordingly. And they look at the other products, looking at what is Gartner predicting in terms of the technology trends. If I think, since you guys are techies, you will understand whether it is the cloud technology, whether it is the blockchain, or whether it is AI or ML, or whether it is IoT or IoT. So what is that technology that we need to start riding our waves on, putting our bets on? So that is a constant process which cannot stop. Now, it doesn't mean that every time they will succeed. So, and that's the reason people develop. They don't bet on only one thing. They say that, right? So you don't have to have all your eggs in one basket. So you have to have your bets on multiple aspects. So that's the short answer.
So, sir, I have one question. If we had 1 month to spend 29 lakhs 98,348 rupees on one project, what it would be?
I I think I really can't answer this question. But what you have to see is that I think
Yes.
just in case you have that as a budget, and if you have certain ideas in your mind, I think you can sit back. You take a step back, as that Einstein was saying. See what is the problem that you can solve, and then when you say that the problem that you're solving, it is not the problem that you'll solve for yourself. I think you have to solve. What you have to think is that with the investment of this much of amount, what is the problem for the customer that I can solve, so that the customers can start paying me after me doing this much of investment. That is where you need to start from.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. And again, I have one question. As you have 22 years of experience in technology, so let us know about the best experience you ever had in this field.
Best
Which
experience,
was your
I
best
think.
part?
Yeah, I think there were many things that were best. There is nothing single that comes out, but I think there are certain places where I, as an individual, have done something completely innovative, and then that helped with a lot of productivity gains, and then I was given awards, where I, as a leader, and along with my team, I think we did a fantastic job for the customer, and then we as a team were recognized, not just once, not just twice, but more than, I think, five, six, seven, 10 times. I think those were the moments. um, there were, I think, many different sticky, technology problems, where when I was working as a developer, I think when I was not able to solve individually myself, but I called my colleagues, and then he and came said, and then within a fraction of a second they came and helped me solve that problem. Because two eyes and then four eyes, there is a difference. Four eyes are always better than two eyes. And then you realize that, oh, it was so simple, I should have called my colleague earlier itself. So there were many moments that come to my mind.
Okay, sir. We have a question that, sir, what should we learn from the five monkey ladder experiment?
Okay, okay. So, can someone else take an attempt to this before I really give my answer to this? Okay. So basically, it was the ability or the skills or the trade that I was talking about. That experiment I talked in the context of changing the status quo. Or you could also, in layman's term, you could also say, look at it as challenging the assumptions, current assumptions. So why, for example, if Elon Musk had not asked the question of, if he has to launch rockets, perhaps in the traditional ways itself, than what he has been doing today, I think then he would, I don't know whether he would have been so successful in what he has done today or not. So you need to be constantly asking this question: are there the things that the way we are working today, is this the way that we should be working, or are there better ways of, us to be working or addressing that particular problem? That's the simplest thing, I think, question that we need to be asking question, you know always. So that is challenge the assumptions that you have currently have, and then see if there are better ways of doing those things, to do the similar thing.
Okay, so I
Okay.
have a question. If someone is new to Agile, so what are your views on Agile testing? So how would you explain that person about Agile testing?
This is a very specific question that you're asking about agile testing. I think agile is
Yeah.
something, in a nutshell, if I have to say that agile is, you have to look at it from business agility perspective. Why agile, right? So today, if any organization, since I think since you guys must be, you're asking this from software perspective, right? So today, if it takes X amount of time for you to, you know, develop that product from idea to launch it to the customer, give it to the customer's hand, if it takes about 1 month, 1 year, 6 months, then the phases that you're talking about, then how you can be more agile and then reduce it by delta. If it is taking 1 year, how can you do that in 6 months of time, so that there is a business agility that you can give? I think that's the question that you need to be asking about. There are many things that you could do. There are many things. I think how you are aligned, what tools you are using, what's the process that you're following, what's the skill set that you have. There are many different levers that you can pull to address the question about whether testing agility or something else. But in at high level, what you have to see is that whether it is testing, whether it's development, whether it is design, you need to always be thinking about what's the business, what's the product, and then how we can help them launch this product in better ways, how we as a business can respond to what is happening in the market in a much quicker way. That's the question that needs to be answered.
Okay, we have
So
a
we have
question
one more
from Anmol.
question.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is there a
you
lesson
can
you have
proceed.
learned as a leader of a team project that will be helpful to others?
Yes, I think there are many lessons that I have learned, but the simplest of the lesson that I could see is that you have to always remember that we deal with people. It is still not that you're dealing with robots who do not have emotions. The most important lesson that I could say is that there are, of course, there are many things that you have to treat people like people.
Okay, I have a question, sir. What's the best idea you have ever had on innovation?
Best idea that I have ever had on innovation. I, as an individual, I thought I had the best idea that I had on innovation, and then I left my job to do pursue that innovation. And unfortunately, when it came to execution part of it, there were many things that I had left open, and then I had to come back into job and then start working as an employee. So you may think that this is the best idea that you have, you will do the best that you do, but you will learn. I think the best thing that you could do is that you can adapt what you learn, what from your failures, for your successes you can learn. But the best thing that someone can do is that always learn and adapt yourself depending upon what has gone in the past, how you have done so far, and then change your strategy and adapt. That's the most important thing.
Thank you, sir.
So I have one question. What are the different project management tools that are mostly used in Agile?
There are multiple. Now if I talk about one particular tool itself, I think it may not really look good, but from since you asked from project management tools itself, nowadays people call it as ALM tools, which is agile lifecycle management tools. And then there is a confluence set of tools that you may say. There are I think many other tools as well that you could use. But what is important is that if a team is small, you don't really have to go to tools, but you can have with a physical, in a physical, you can sit in a physical room, or even if when you're working remotely, you can have a simple Excel sheet and a Word form document which you can share, or any open source tools that you could find today. But I think tools is not really important. What is important is that ability of the people to make use of available tools, and then do the best that they can to address the challenges that the business is facing. That's most important thing.
We
Okay, we
have
have a
one
question from
question.
Skand. Go on, Mahima. Go on.
How to handle setbacks on any idea that we have worked for a long time?
Yeah, I think there are two parts of this question. I would say, so it is important that you need to have ideas, and it is important that you need to have multiple ideas, and it is more important for you to not spend. There is always a aspect of sunk cost that we say that I people what people have what really happens is that people hold those ideas close to their hearts, and they spend x amount of money, they spend y amount of money, they spend z amount of money, and think that this is the pet idea that I have, this is the best idea that I have, and since I already have invested this much of time, energy, and money into this idea, I should continue to pour more into this. But what is most important is that I think you need to always be looking at it with not with your emotions out of it, and then see if you need to kill that idea, and if you need to stop working on that idea and then start working on something else. That's the most important thing.
Okay, that was so great answer. So, can you explain agile testing? What are the principles of agile testing?
Yeah, I think again this is again coming becoming very specific to agile testing. I would say that agile, whether it is agile testing, whether it is agile designing, agile development, whatever you could put after agile. So agility is the most important thing, right? So principles, what are the principles that we're talking about? The principles that we're talking about is that you need to be listening to your customers as to what your customer wants. Your customer wants X and you are giving Y. You are giving it very fast, it doesn't help, right? So that's the most important thing. Are we producing what your customers want? Is first question. Then the second question is that are you producing what when your customers need it as well? The problem that we talked about, Y2K problem, or if we can take example of today's example itself, right? So the COVID cases. So the vaccines that are out today. Now 1 year down the line, 1 year before we are today, right? So if someone had come up with some vaccination that yes, I have this particular vaccination, and then it is going to be with one shot, not even injection, perhaps smell something and then put something in your ear or nose and mouth, and then you are vaccinated. I think that would have been different. If today someone comes and say that you take this two new vaccination, then there are these two doses or one dose, I think that is of not much value, although it may be of value. So when your customers want, that is important. Now don't relate it only to one particular phase of testing or development or something else. You need to look at it holistically. What your listen to your customers needs, solve that need, listen to your customers when that customer wants it, and then other aspects of it, how what your competition is doing. If they already have done it, then do you really need to do that, or you need to focus here on this somewhere else? You have to look at it holistically.
Yes, and one question has arisen. Leaders are not born, but they develop leadership by their experience. So, can we apply for phenomena for innovation or else?
Uh, Sorry, what was the last leaders? Could you please repeat the question? Sorry, I lost it.
Sure, sir. Leaders are not born, but they develop leadership by their experience. So, can we apply same phenomena for innovation or else?
Yes, as I said, yes, resounding big capital yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question, sir. If the saying "too many cooks spoil the broth" is real, then is there a limit on number of people who can or should work on a project?
Yes, yes. I mean, uh, to be very honest, I think it doesn't happen that you have more than required projects on a project, because normally number of people is directly proportional to the cost that is going into the project. If companies will always see that if there are 10 people required on the project, no company will put 20 people on the project or 11 people on the project. They will always see how we can do this work with 10 people itself, or perhaps how can we do this work with less than 10 people. That's the thing that you see. But when it comes to getting ideas, feedback, inputs, I think it is always good that you talk to more and more number of people. There are chances that you get more and more inputs and feedback that is going to be useful for your project.
Okay. So, guys, you have any kind of queries you can put in the chat box still.
I think that's all. So, thank you, sir. It
Okay,
was a
thank you.
mind-blowing session, isn't it, Mahima?
Yes, you are right. It was awesome and very informative. It is our privilege to propose the vote of thanks for the regional conference on innovation 2021 commencing today. It is my great pleasure to express on behalf of the organizers and my own behalf a deep appreciation for the support and encouragement we received during this conference.
At the outset, I would like to express my profound gratitude to the guest of honor, Mr. Vijay sir, for sparing his valuable time to address the gathering. This event would never have been possible without the constant guidance and help of head of the club, Ms. Nalini ma'am. I would also like to thank the principals of all the sister institutes for being with us with great support.
I thank all other distinguished delegates who have accepted our invitation and given generously of their time. Your participation, I am sure, will adapt to the content and deliberations. Thank you for coming.
An event of this magnitude requires meticulous planning and execution and an eye for details. I've been extremely fortunate to be able to draw upon the willing support of colleagues who have demonstrated an initiative and involvement at every step and made the task easier. Teaching and non-teaching staff and student volunteers for their support. Thank you all. We now declare that the program is over. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day and have a great career ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
Bye, sir.